Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are college dropouts, but we really want our English degrees.
So we're doing a challenge. Each week we sit down. Our goal is to write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read what we wrote, we talk about what we learned in writing it, and then we talk about stories sent in by you listeners.
Exactamundo. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A doof media production. We're not actually college dropouts, but classes are starting next week, and I am not super excited about it. It's like a multi-level fear. Because like on one level it's just the normal like, oh no, I'm gonna have a lot more work. The other level is like, this is all online, we don't know how the transition is gonna go. Like a lot of these professors have never done online. My education is probably not going to be as high quality as it was. And the other fear is we are certain that there will be a pandemic, like a local pandemic. No, pandemic.
Oh, 100%.
A local epidemic.
There's going to be a local
epidemic.
There's going to be a local outbreak.
Yeah, outbreak. Honestly, around every university because
I'm getting it. I'm giving at least UNT 2 weeks. 2 good weeks.
Yeah.
Before there's the first case,
right?
And then there are going to be a lot of things that you have to change. I mean, the good thing is that we are mostly online, which means that I know for people like me,
we're
I'm not
cool.
going to do anything different.
No, you and me were cool. But all the freshmen,
sophomores even too.
Basically, they kept all of the freshman courses in person, which are also the ones with the gigantic 150 lecture hall classrooms. They kept all of those in person because they want the freshmen to have like the college experience. That way they want to go to university instead of taking the exact same intro to like government 101 course that they could take at any community college, then pay like 1/10 of the price.
Exactly.
And so they can get all that sweet freshman money. But of course,
but the issue is that the freshmen make up the majority of most college campuses.
Yeah. And they are children who don't, think about how their lives might be lost and other people's lives might be lost. So,
because I mean, granted, right? I know at my college apartment complex, which is filled with a lot older people. Even here, there was a horrible pool party yesterday of over 100 people.
Dope.
Just playing loud music, coughing all over each other, shaking hands. So, I mean, it seems like a lot of people aren't taking it as seriously as they should.
Yeah.
But the sad fact is that we're all going to pay for it as soon as a lot more of I'm not gonna say our rights, but a lot more liberties are gonna slowly start being taken away from us because of COVID.
It's gonna be great. I really appreciate that about the university, and I appreciate that about our United States government. Super cool. So let's get going. Sorry about being a bummer. We're just like stressed out about it. We were talking about it before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty scared.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be dope. Okay, let's get into the words this week. Were term, classroom, white, and stitch. So, Jarvis, my friend, my co-host,
That's me.
My boon companion. What words did you choose this week?
I chose term, white, and stitch. Mostly because I couldn't really find a place for classroom. I'm not really sure exactly what I was thinking going into this story. I just decided to sit down and just start writing and just start going. Because for most things that I do write, I have a extensive process of planning. And I just kind of wanted to switch it up this week, especially since, this entire summer has pretty much been the same old. So I just decided to fly off of the suit of my pants and just write something down. And it does take place around a school but I just never really took the characters inside of a class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did notice that the words seem to influence what you did end up writing, even if it didn't actually make it in, which is a normal do the right thing. Okay, is there anything we should know before we get into it?
No, not really. I think we can just go ahead and roll on into the story.
Let's go.
So the title of this one is A Little Light. 4:45 a.m. DD. Hey Mark. Sorry it's taking a while. Shit's crazy hard to get, LOL. I'm on my way to drop it off. DD. I'll drop the Addy later. Be safe though. There's a bunch of crackheads in Old Town, LMAO. A 6 a.m. silent alarm would buzz him awake. From here he'd have an hour before his mother put the kettle on. The sun's still asleep at this time, so it couldn't see the mess of Marcus's room. The stale roaches and darkened ashtrays. The ash from incense that stained the carpet brown and dusted his desks. Yes, desks. White. Beyond the look of the room, the smell was pungent. Dirty lemon, greasy grime, pine sol. Whatever it was towed the line of pleasantry, like a sage or rosemary, but different, burnt, and had a distinct thickness in the air. Marcus was saturated in this smell, penetrated his teeth's enamel, and overpowered the cocoa butter he lathered on. Even though he set an alarm, Marcus wasn't quick or nimble. Through colorless eyes, he'd be an imposing figure, thinner than average build, but had the height and saunter, a bit of a RBF. Not the best aura around him, but to his family he's scholarship worthy, doctor destined. So his room was clean, music clean, classes passed, and Sundays free for God, which left that little hour before the house woke, between 6 and 7, to spend preserving an outward image his family couldn't complain about. He had an hour to clean, collect loose baggies, light incense, wipe off surfaces, stuff all drug paraphernalia in his day bag, and crack a window. He'd take some eye drops just to be safe, spurt his hair with cheap cologne, and shove his cozy drug rug deep in his closet. A lot of work for one measly bowl and a smelly stash. But the alternative would be a horrible conversation and revealing his secret he'd sooner take to the grave. His mom would knock no later than 7. So, after running round for an hour, Marcus would hit the hay for an extra 10 to get that tired eye look. They'd go through the motions. Breakfast is ready. How'd you sleep? Good, honey. And you? Fine. I didn't hear you come in. I stayed over Joshua. You've been over there every day. Are you sure? I'm sure his mom is okay with it. Okay. And so on, until they exhaust every point. Then they'd eat their bacon and eggs in silence until the bus rolled around at 7:40. Marcus would be careful not to mention school, and in doing so let the idea slip from his mother's mind. So when 7:39 rolled round, Marcus would make a big commotion. I'm going to be late for the bus, and rush out, catching his black and yellow back disappear over the hill. With a smile he'd come back home, complaining, telling his mom, I'll take my bike, before zooming off in the opposite direction. This little mishap maintained the idea in his mom's mind that her son is busy most of the time, scatterbrained but intelligent, a worrywart prone to being stressed, amounting to less prodding questions at dinner, and minimal calls or texts throughout the day. With wind under his wheels he was free to ride down through the suburbs of Edgerton, Texas, a spit of color under monochrome hills. The sun burnt all that wasn't watered once a week, such is the curse of Texas. So outside city limits, there really wasn't any grass nor animals, just big nothing. Someone called the area of Texas Edgerton thrived in bumfuck. Even the highway company diverted the road away from them years ago. But the residents of Edgerton have worked long and hard to be considered the cactus flower of Texas. To Marcus, it was all a joke. Department stores would likely carry Hydro Mousse liquid lawn over produce or coffee. There was a celebration called a Cactus Bowl, which is exactly what you think it is. They even, for a time, erected a flag in their honor. Dark green, white streaks, a purple-pink flower budding in the middle. They quickly buried the idea when the mayor's wife mistook the outline for their infant son's drawing. But, in all honesty, Marcus has been in nicer suburbs, yet never wasted a day inside. Rode down Weston Street, Congress, frequented La Casa Deli and Firehouse Tacos, passing between North and West Edgerton by way of Quinoa Bridge. On Fridays, people, peers, and older blew up Marcus's phone, either preparing for the weekend or planning for the future. So he used the Finder app. Not only was it unregulated, but its integration with Pinterest turned it into a sort of social media for lowlifes. Marcus used the app to its full unintended design on Fridays, like nudes through Snapchat. So he kept one hand on his handlebars, one thumb on his phone screen, and flicked with ease through Finder's white and red text chats. 7:51 a.m. Maria, need a quarter. UK, $50. Great. I can come by the creek after school. Bet. 7:55 a.m. Oh, do you still sell pipes? Yeah. One hitter is 20, pipe 30, and so on. Alright, I'll get a one hitter. Bet. Faithfuls get discounts. With the sun in his eyes, he left the street his house sat on, to cut through the town park. The sidewalk wound down small inclines through wide trees. Every so often, overgrowth would hide the path in withered weeds, and forcefully branch off in rocky paths fostered by pickup trucks. To the left was forest, a sporadic grassland of few trees and many cacti, being donned the cactus patch by a tall dark-wood sign posted in the distance. To the right was his school, and a far-off sidewalk the park road wound into. 7:56 a.m. Jazz. Hey Mark, it's Jazz from AP Bio. Maria gave me your number. You. Sup Jazz, what you need? Adderall, if you have any. I don't know what it's sold by, but I only need like 4 tabs. I have off-brand. 4 will run you 80. Off-brand? I don't know drug terms. It's a different brand, but it's the same stuff. Oh, okay. Sounds good. Sorry. LOL. New buyers get upcharged. The school bus hadn't even reached the school by the time Marcus rolled around. A little more than a church cottage, Edgerton High had a surprisingly robust student body. Had a bit of this and a bit of that. Picturesque of the multicolorism displayed in the rose window of your local library. School started late on Fridays, 9 by city mandate. So Marcus had an extra 20-30 minutes to pick up. 8:10 a.m. Goody goody Shauna. Got any balloons? You talking about Nos? Goody goody Shauna. No, party balloons. Yes, Nos. You. Okay, damn. 25 a box. Goody goody Shauna. 25 a box? I can get them for 10 at any cake shop. You. Then do that. LOL. 25 for finder's fee, and I have to make a profit. Goody goody Shauna. What about 20 a box? No. 23 and a prom ticket? Only if I can take you. Goody goody Shauna. 25 is fine. See you in 30. Convinced is for a friend. 8:16 a.m. DD. Addie is 3271 Quinoa Drive. Pass the bridge and follow the pin. LL. Negative 30.439920, comma, negative 97.620960. Marcus rode his bike to Quinoa Drive, small sprint from the school. 3271 Quinoa Drive was a house on the corner, white brick, white fence, pretty bland but stood out enough to be a good landmark. Just past the house was the westward entrance to Quinoa Bridge, a mile-long high-rise that hung above remnants of the old town. There were tractors below the bridge, old shops, banks, outhouses, even sheds and houses stuck under the rubble of age still kept their hollow shape, preserved through no one's intention. For those who geocache or frequent Randonautica, the well-hidden stairs to the old world, necessary passage to goodies and treasures more valuable. Through the Finder app, Marcus could see the pin's trajectory. It was a little off from the bridge, to the left down the stairs. From the offshoot staircase, Marcus couldn't find a box nor wagon the plug could have stashed it in. Below he did find the creek, nearly bone dry, yet it spanned far off to the midnight dark woods that had no end. He figured the lack of care given to the upkeep of Old Town hid the storehouse under the wide-brimmed canopy that towered any structure for miles. It was probably covered in decades of dirt and water damage. That's what made it indiscriminable from the trees that hid it. He walked blind into the belly of the beast, each step dimming the sun. At ground level, Marcus stopped at a 1-foot hop that separated the concrete bridge from rocky nature. A ping on his phone snapped him out of it. By then, it was 8:30 a.m. People were waiting on him. So he followed the longitude and latitude into the forest, keeping a fair eye on the creek the whole time. A ways down the creek and the destination became clear. A dilapidated pickup and a few rusty tackle boxes pointed Marcus towards an old fishing shack built on a water reservoir. The shack was a dock's length from the creek, propped up by a feet of rock, and lost in the mist of dead trees. It itself leaned closer to a hollowed-out great oak than a bait and tackle shop. Its neighbors grew through it, poked out the windows, and filled the walls with foliage. One of us. Marcus figured it was the fishing shack, because why would he stash precious ganja in a gutter? So he walked round the back and stepped through a rotten hole probably left by a junkie with some muscle. It didn't look too good. Shelving structures and the cashier's desk were broken through by heavy rocks that sunk the floor. The smell watered Marcus's eyes. He was expecting fish, even old rotten fish. But the shack reeked of dysentery, B.O., the hint of meat and stale smoke. He covered his mouth and slanted his eyes. Nothing in the shack was telling, besides a few boxes and bags that were piled up by the entrance. But their contents were picked over, slept under, and pissed on based on the smell. 8:33 a.m. Yo, pick a better spot next time. Pit-pat-plop. Pit-pat-plop. Pit-pat-pop. Pit-pat-plop. Pit-pat-plop. Wet footsteps echoed outside the shack. Methodical, yet lazy, Marcus checked up and down the creek to notice no change. But it was persistent, labored. Hair climbed out of the reservoir below, matted, stringy yet locked. Anywhere from 1 to 2 feet of hair dripped wet from the gutter. Then 2 hands pulled a skeleton-thin body into the moss. It cracked violently with age. It was a vagrant, vagabond, cracky aqualung, who was anywhere from 27 to 72, wore a tattered maroon shirt tucked into one-strap overalls. He rolled round in the creek, loose arms like a newborn. But his moans were pleasurable, his lips gone purple, and dry cuticles dug into his hairy stomach. D? Marcus said, knowing damn well D wouldn't be crawling out of a gutter to help. The man's moans cut, soft eyes trained on Marcus. Hey, kid. The man rolled over to his stomach, catching faint beams of light along a metal piece of scrap that was stuffed down the man's crack. What are you doing here? The man rolled to his feet, stumbled back, then forward towards Marcus. Oh shit, I'm sorry, bro, The man let no second pass before throwing a hand through the front window and poking his head through. "Did you break into my house?" "I didn't think anyone." The man flipped in to the fish shack, grabbing towards Marcus and his bag, but instead wound up flat on his face. Then Marcus ran. There's no telling if the man ever got up, but he screamed far in the distance, "Trespasser!" It was obvious he wasn't too thrilled about Marcus. The creek ran for miles. Fear wasn't what encapsulated Marcus's thoughts, however. Now it did make him run, but with every stride his excuse formulated. "Sorry, Maria, plug gypped me." "Hey, Jazz, could you wait a day?" "D, what the fuck, man?" Mid-thought, Marcus's foot smashed against the 1-foot concrete incline feet away from the stairs. The pain shot up his spine. Shoes trickled with wetness. His head hit the pavement, throwing shards of rock into his eye. Tired, hurt, and in need of stitches, Marcus stayed there for a good while. Then a buzz rang throughout Edgerton, shaking the winds like a storm was brewing. It was 9 a.m. At the latest, first period was just about to start.
Fantastic story, Jarvis. This is one of my favorites in a while. I don't know exactly why, but it hit me really well. Like your voice here, it takes a slightly I don't want to say different route, but a different tone, or it's like your normal voice, but clearer. Where there has been sometimes before where the way that you describe some scenes was kind of in the Lovecraftian sense, in Lovecraftian sense, as in the way that Lovecraft writes, not in the Eldritch Abomination sense. Yeah,
basically filling it with a lot of adjectives, a lot of descriptive
not
words, to the point to where it might be too much.
Yeah, not that it's purple prose, but in a sense of it bogs down what you're trying to tell a little bit. But I think here, I think you all of that description really useful in characterizing our character and the town that he lives in. And I really like how you broke up the narration with these texts. I think it's a really nice structural thing, because otherwise we would just have a lot of paragraphs of us moving around. But this was a kind of a way to provide a break in between the narration and sort of skip beats between one, not scene, but location and another. So what was the thought process behind that?
So pretty much when I sat down to write this, I wanted to stay a lot more connected to what's happening right then and there within the story. I know something that I normally do is I write for a future scene. So I write in a way that is building towards something, which I did do here, but I try my best to slow down and to try a lot harder at painting a picture, but making it a lot more clear and a lot more simple. And I think I kind of really found that voice through going back over it once and kind of cutting down on a lot of words and really deciding what within this story is going to push it forward and isn't just fluff that I like. So I think that's a divisive process is what really made this story one that I really enjoyed, and I'm almost proud that I've written this in only 30 minutes. And also I am really happy that the texts did come across. I was really worried in basically adding them because I wasn't sure if it would have came across completely.
What do you mean by come across? That they are texts, or?
Yeah. So I was worried if they would come across as text or come across as something written down. which is why I try to add timestamps. I even shorten certain words, added lol, added lamau, and certain things like that, just to kind of bring across the point that this character of Marcus is closely connected to what he does text, because that kind of dictates what his days is going to look like, and also how much money he will make throughout that day.
Right. Very short tangent. Have you ever like written out the word LOL in like handwriting? It feels really weird.
Yes, it does.
It's weirder than saying lol out loud.
Because like when you do write it, it feels like you're drawing something. Like it doesn't even feel like you're actually putting down letters.
It's also like writing is always like handwriting is almost always like more of a formal thing. Like I mean, you might be writing a note to yourself, but like in most contexts that we do it, it's either like school or like work, right? And so you don't write LOL in those contexts. So anyway, no, the fact that they were texts really came across, and what I really liked about it is that we got Marcus's voice basically from the way that he writes texts, and I kind of got the sense that like he knows these people, but like not all of them he's like actually like close friends with, and he's just like being like familiar with them because that's just the way that he talks to people. And like that's part of the business essentially, is just being friendly.
Yeah, being friendly and being able to provide them with goods.
Goods and or services.
So I do have a question about the section where he's talking to his mom. I don't know if this will come across when I do post it on Reddit, but I basically kind of clumped a lot of the lines of dialogue with what it's being directly linked to, and I wonder if that kind of came across when you were reading it.
By what do you mean by linked to?
Right here it says breakfast is ready, and then in the center it is
with the sleep? Formatting, right? Okay,
good honey, and you, with the formatting, basically just formatting.
My issue is that when I read it on mobile version, so I didn't actually see the formatting, and when I didn't see the formatting, it was a little confusing. But let me, the way that it's coming across formatted on my page is kind of confusing, where like actually some lines that belong to different characters are paired together. So
yes,
so that's intentional.
Yes, because it's, I don't know. I wanted to create this sort of disjointed conversation to kind of bring across the fact that they are just going through the motions, that what they're saying to each other isn't really that deep beyond formality. Which is one reason why I detached all sort of tags on who is speaking, because in a sense they're just disjointed lines.
Yeah, the taking off the tags I think worked for me, because it's like these are simple and rote enough that we can recognize the roles that are being said. Like breakfast is ready, that's mom's line. How'd you sleep is more ambiguous, but like the next line of good honey and you is obviously a mom line. Fine is obviously a teenager line. So just by the content of what's being said, it's pretty easy to tell who's speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this formatting. So just to describe it for those who just listen to it, the way it appears for me is, so breakfast is ready is left aligned where text normally is, and then how did you sleep and good honey and you are both centered and one above the other, and then we're back on left aligned with fine, and then we're back to the center with I didn't hear you come in, I stayed over Josh's, and then the next pair of lines is actually right aligned. You've been there every day, are you sure? And then I'm sure his mom is okay with it, and then back over to the other side with okay. So it's kind of like a meander of a couple lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just really me trying to try something different on where the reader's eye would go, because by setting this up, their eye kind of moves in a squiggle down the page, which I don't know. It's I guess different. I, in a sense, was just trying to add a bit of different flair, and also kind of show that this section of him talking to his mother is just going through the motions. It's like rolling down a hill.
Okay.
In a sense, to where it is moving towards something, but it's nothing substantial.
Sure. I'm not gonna. I don't know exactly how I feel about it, so I'm not gonna say like don't do it or not. I actually like it's. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So I'm sorry, I don't have a really good answer for that.
Well, no, it's fine. I'm not entirely sure either. I mean, to be honest, that entire section could definitely be cut. Because something like this never really comes up anywhere else within the actual story.
That said, the next time that you use interesting formatting other than the text is much later on, right? And that's with the noise outside the fish shack.
Oh, yes.
I actually really liked it, which I normally like sometimes breaks in format like that can feel kind of silly, and I think there's like a very small element of like, oh, that's weird when we see it, but I think I think it's interesting enough that it works. And what's interesting about it is, so you have this the pit pat plop, and they're kind of in two descending rows or columns, two descending columns right next to each other. Because they're in italics, and because of just like how there's a word for this, but I forget what it is. But basically, like where the letters are placed in these words, like the fact that there's a capital P, it's a PIT pit is all like they're all like tall letters, I guess, and then pat the P, the P in pat drops below the line, and then A is also a low letter. It kind of, when you look at it, at least when I look at it from afar, it looks like these words are squiggling, but when you zoom in, that's not actually the case. They're just in italics, but like they're kind of like wavy, which is very strange. But I found it interesting. That.
Yeah, and I know as I was writing that, I knew that I wanted to add some sort of onomatopoeia, only because I really like those. I do also always find them pretty silly. When I read them, sometimes I do find them a little bit silly, only because it's just this sort of very foreign element being added to the text, I guess. But I just kind of wanted to visualize how this might sound, how it's not coming from one sole location, but it's kind of stumbling. You know, it's uneven and it's disjointed. And thankfully, I figured out how to do this, because I've always kind of wanted to do something like this, and I just finally said, well, let me just press tab a bunch of times and just see what happens. And it basically ended up lining up pretty perfectly.
That's cool.
So.
I like that. I wonder how it would feel if you wrote a story where like different formatting like this was a very common element, like you use it like 6 times or something.
Yo, that is my dream book. That I don't know, because I honestly think using your text in a visual way along with just what you're putting down can definitely bring across the full effect of what you're trying to do with the actual story.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this is definitely me trying with that. Because I know one really great book that I like is the Curious Incident of a Dog at Nighttime, which within that book there are pictures and there are diagrams and there are certain lines written in a totally different font, and all this really adds up to creating this very interesting read that is different from anything else that you've probably read. And I don't know, I just really like that sort of element, that twist on what a novel can be.
I know I've asked this like so many times, and I should remember the answer at this point, but have you read House of Leaves?
I have not read House of Leaves.
Okay, yeah. I need to get the book to you.
Yeah, because I have seen pages from it, if like that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I know there was one page where like 5 different paragraphs are written in a jumbled pile.
Yeah, overlapping each other. Yeah,
yeah,
House of Leaves is like experimenting with form of a book, like the book. Basically, it's and it's a pretty good story too. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to learn how to play with it. Now, the problem, and I think this is like where like critics often like look down on it, is just that like sometimes it can feel kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
Where like I mean, sometimes it's like very literal. Like if the characters are going down the stairs and then like the words are like written as if they're going down the stairs, like they're stepped. Like it's kind of like,
that's cool.
I mean, it's like neat, but it's like, okay, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
though.
I guess.
Well, I mean, okay, going down
true.
the stairs is like an unfair example, but like if they were like descending down into a pit and they do that, it's like it adds a little bit, but it doesn't add that much, and you also take away from how it's normally written. I don't know. There's pros and cons, and
yeah, I mean it definitely does feel like for something like that, it's towing a line to where it could be too much, because still it has to be a book and it has to follow certain contentions and rules, even if it is being experimental. So yeah, I have also heard that plenty of people don't like it because it's not what a book should be. So
yeah, I mean, genre conventions are just genre conventions. We mostly write things how we write them just because of like that's the practicality like limits, like because printing presses were a certain way, that's why we have letters be a certain way. And like the reason that books have margins is because like it's easier to print them that way and it looks better, and it's not like you couldn't break that, especially if you're just like writing for yourself, especially, and you're not worried about printing costs. But
yeah.
Yeah, like I guess the issue is just that people come in with a lot of expectations, right? Just because a book is a book and that means things to them. Breaking those conventions can, you just have to be careful about it, which I think experimenting is the correct thing to do. Also, if you want an example of some fairly good breaking convention, there's a couple times in Wildbow's more recent works where he does something like that.
Okay. Like in Pale or Twig?
In the ones that I remember happen in Ward and Pale, yeah. Okay. And I think there might be one in Worm too. Oh yeah, there's also one in Pact. I remember now. Let me try. I don't want to spoil it, is the thing. Anyway, but okay, I'm not going to spoil anything. But yeah, Wildbow plays around with just like the fact that there are chapters and there's a button for next chapter, and like does interesting things with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I mean that's great. I mean that's the glory of being postmodern.
Yeah. So let's move on from this specific topic. I know I've gone on a bit about it.
Well, I guess I do have a question.
Yeah.
So overall, right, we're talking about the story that is being presented, along with I guess a question on if a lot of the moments where I am describing the town or describing Marx's past experiences, were those moments kind of meandering, or was it still pushing towards that end?
I would say it was mostly pushing towards the end. I mean, there's definitely like stuff that like you would end up cutting, but I think it's pretty well directed. Yeah. Where like, I mean, if this was like the entire story, and there's not like an open ended of like there might be more to write, then I would say that maybe some of it's meandering, but that's just the like idea of like short stories should be like efficient or whatever in their final form, but this is not the final form, so like it's kind of like moot point. On a different section, the when Marcus is texting these people, like if this was like a super
my favorite section to write.
I mean, I really did enjoy them, but like if this was a story you were trying to like submit to like a official publishing place, right? You would want each one of those to be like really significant to the story, like not necessarily like plot twists are happening in every text exchange or whatever, but just like that they reveal something important and relevant to the themes you're trying to tell in each of those exchanges. Like, why is he talking to this person in that way, and what does that mean? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That kind of thing.
Okay, I see.
So yeah, basically the same thing with meandering, where like if this is a longer-ish story, then like I'm basically okay with the assumption of like the description of the town is going to be really relevant. It's already relevant now to set up the tone, but it's going to be really relevant later on when we build upon these themes and we come back to different parts of the setting.
Definitely, yeah. And I think one major thing is that as I was writing this, I expected to get to a completely different end. It was just going to be him going to a spot where he normally does his dealings, and I like even wrote out the whole conversation between him and Goody Goody Shauna, because that was supposed to be the like ending for it. And I do feel that the most of these things, as you said, would be building towards something else if there was definitely more written on it. Along with the description, but I don't know. I've been trying a lot harder to be a lot more conscious when I am meandering when I do write, which I guess is definitely a major thing that I did learn, is that being a lot more conscious about what I am putting down on the page is very stressful. I mean, there have been times where I would just be at this kind of block because I wasn't sure how to proceed through this new voice, through this new-ish way of me trying to tell this story. So it did come with some stress, but through that I was definitely able to kind of push through and come up with something that's, I don't know, has a bit more taste to it. Flavor.
You say the word flavor makes me think of that first paragraph, which was this is not good feelings in my mouth or my nose, so
are you talking about
his really disgusting room?
Roaches and darkened ashtrays, dirty lemon, greasy grime pines.
Yeah, that bit.
I mean, okay, did you understand what those question marks were pointing towards, or like? Because I was trying my best to describe this very specific smell.
Oh yeah, no, yes, no. The question marks works just fine. Yeah.
All right, cool.
We're saying that each of these things that we're putting a question mark is like it's somewhat like these things, but it's not exactly that thing. Yeah. I think asking questions to the audience, like rhetorical ones, I think is a fun, good practice. Okay, so obviously there's always more we could say, especially for a story of this length. This I think we've already been talking about it for like 20 minutes, so I feel like this is a good.
I can just say
what did you learn, and what would you change next time that you haven't already said?
So pretty much just what I would change was just running it through a lot more edits, trimming a lot of things down. Mostly I want to really work on the end, because towards that part I was really losing a lot of steam when it came to describing this old town, describing the creek and this homeless man that crawled out of the gutter. So those are things that I would like to bring a lot more attention to. And yeah, just overall make a couple of edits. I wouldn't say that there's anything specific, just, a general run through.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned was just that taking my time, even though it does eat into the 30 minutes, proves to be a lot better when it comes to the product, and also the process of writing it was a lot more rewarding, because through taking my time while also going off of while also just writing off of the cuff, come up with more tangible and better ideas overall. So yeah, it was a good time all around.
Fantastic. Okay, let's get into the listener submitted story section.
Sure thing. So, as you know, this is the listener submitted story section. We are going to talk about all these stories a lot. We're going to spoil them, which means that if you haven't read them, I will go ahead and pause this podcast after we announce what the stories are going to be, and then come on back so that you can talk about them with us.
Yeah. Right? Just, interject your comments in between the things that we're saying, or just talk over us. And while we will be ignoring everything you say, know that we are listening.
Yes,
we are not responding, but we hear you. We appreciate you. And we want to hear more.
We love you.
Also, we might forget what you said. Just because we're very forgetful, and also because if anyone else is listening to the podcast at the same time as you, they're speaking at the same time as you, and so it's kind of a jumbled up mess. So
it'll be later.
Yeah. If you really want us to really get and remember what you said, the best way to do that would be to send us an email or something. Provide us a textual reminder of what you said to us during while you were listening to us. But so let's get into it.
Yeah, so the stories we are going to be talking about this week are by Jarby Jazz, Calinero 985, Ace of Sword, Nipotin, and Reese.
That's right. There was a lot of writers this week. Great job.
I know.
Peoples.
That's crazy. I think this has been our biggest turnout in a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's fantastic.
So thanks to everyone who came back and wrote stuff, especially those who wrote comments and basically kept the spirit of things alive and well. Always love seeing that.
Yeah. So the first story we are going to be talking about is by Ace of Sword with Dazzle.
But in this story, this Dazzle, I can describe this Dazzle. We have this magic apprentice who works at is learning how magic works at the university, and they're not just learning how magic works, they're learning how the magic of magic works, basically the fundamental forces behind each spell. You can learn a spell, but learning the mechanics behind it is something entirely different, and something that the entire academy, it seems like it's struggling to fully understand, where basically it's a fluke whenever someone invents a spell, essentially. But so our character only knows one spell. We don't really know exactly what it is, but they are going off to practice it. They have to keep concentrating on it as they go around. They go wander into town, and they pass by an inn where they see a conjurer, which is kind of a mage that doesn't actually know the magic behind magic. They only know a couple things. Is putting on a show, doing a couple of tricks of transmuting things, one thing to another, ending with turning a giant bubble that used to be a rock, making it turn into. What's interesting is that because we're coming from an understanding physics, I think we can kind of make guesses as to how it works. Where the bubble bursts into flame after it touches a torch, and our main character is oh my goodness, how did they do that? They made a giant fireball. That's really impressive. When I've never heard of someone doing that. And I mean, my guess is that she transmuted it into a flammable gas, right? And so I just thought that was a neat little thing where the reader is some dramatic irony there. But the mage talks to this conjurer. The conjurer says, I want to know the magic of magic, but I'm actually very poor, right? That's why I'm putting on shows. But if you teach me a spell, maybe I can do something for you too. And the mage is like, okay, but I want more. I only know one spell, so you have to teach me 3 spells back. And the mage is like, well, that's greedy, but sure. And they go off basically agreeing to do this for the future. And yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, very much so. I think this story has great world building and bringing us into this different form of magic that I really haven't seen from too many places. And quickly we get a good sense as to who our main character is. They are very curious about this magic, and that does lead them to striking up this deal. So yeah, overall, I just really like it. I think it was written very well, and I'm eager to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I really like the character of the conjurer that's built here. It's playing into some archetypes in some really fun ways.
Well, all right. Up next is by Calinero985 with First Day.
So this is a fun little like closed box mystery. I don't actually know if I use that term correctly at all. I just
I think
I don't think it's correct at all. I don't know. Our main character appears in the box essentially. Our main character Brooke, she wakes up, although she doesn't actually feel like she woke up. She just is there and aware that she's there. In this classroom where everything is white and it's as generic a classroom as possible. And each of the desks are other students, but she's never seen any of them before. One person starts to talk when suddenly their face gets cut open after they get one word out. And Brooke looks up at the board and sees that there's a bunch of rules on the board. One is raise your hand while speaking, identify yourself on your work, grading is on a curve, 3 strikes, you're out. 5, remain at your desk until you leave the classroom, and 6, no one leaves before the bell rings. Welcome to contract law. So we're immediately set up, oh no, this is a sort of, what are examples?
I mean, the first thing that I thought of when I started reading was a battle royale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then quickly it turned into this sort of supernatural Saw-like thing.
Yeah, it's like, I think Battle Royale is a fair comparison. Calinero985 compares it to Maze Runner. There's a movie on Netflix. I think it's some really low budget thing. It's called Circle. That's a similar scenario.
Yeah.
I actually really like that movie.
Have you seen Platform?
No.
It's also a Netflix show or movie that I think is far better than The Circle, while also talking to similar things.
I think The Circle is also a different movie. I don't know.
Circle is the one where they're standing on the red dot.
Yes.
And they get zapped. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what The Circle is then. But.
I don't know either. I just know that people talk about it and I get excited because I think they're talking about that other movie, but they're not. Anyway.
But then they watch Circle.
Back to Calinero985's story. Sorry about that. So this person that cried out, Brooke puts a hand over their mouth just to make sure they don't talk anymore. And then some other people in the room, they raise their hands and start talking, and they don't get their faces cut open. One person tries to escape and immediately gets one cut across their face, then another one down their face, and then the third thing, basically, as I understand it, basically half of their face gets ripped off, and then they get forced through a hole that doesn't exist with the sound of flesh tearing and bone snapping, which is terrifying. But it's really good at setting the stakes. Yeah, so we know what the consequences are. And of course, after that happens, the next line is, things got bad after that. We're just like, oh my God.
It got even worse somehow.
Yeah, so at this point, Brooke starts engaging with the mystery. There's a bunch of papers in front of them, sort of presenting riddles, but they get extremely hard to understand. They're basically nonsensical. And it sort of feels like going through these worksheets is not actually the solution, or if it is, it's a strange solution. Brooke is like trying to find like what is actually the riddle here. She looks around the room, and actually there's some students missing. Some of the seats are empty, and she didn't hear about them getting eaten up, right? And so she kind of figures out that, oh, actually people have solved the thing, and they've actually been able to get out somehow. And so she starts figuring it out too, and eventually she comes to an answer, and that reveal is held to us until the end. And she has to contemplate of like, should she tell other people what the solution is? It would be the right thing to do, but one of the rules is that grading is on a curve, which means that the more people that do good, the more people that do bad, the better everyone else becomes, basically. So it actually is really bad for her to do that. And so she solves the riddle as she understands it and writes in the part where she's supposed to put her name, where it says identify yourself. She puts no one, and then the classroom is gone.
Yeah. So I really like this story. I love how quickly this sort of supernatural tension in the air is set up. And the situation itself is pretty interesting. And I do like how after we initially get how gruesome this thing is, that is basically keeping them there, we go further into this sort of world building on exactly what they do need to get out of this class. And I love the moments when we're in Brooke's head and how she herself is trying to really figure this out. So yeah, I think it's a very well crafted story with a ending that definitely makes you question. So yeah, really good.
So for a critique, I'm going to agree with Honto the Heron, who left a comment that I think showing the consequence of the 3 strikes happened a little bit early. I think just like getting cuts across your face is threatening enough for us to get to have enough tension for a bit. And I think like maybe someone making a mistake later on might have been a better place to put that. That said, in the events that happen in the story, that's not really the case.
And I mean, like, I do also feel that as soon as the line said, like, things got bad after that, there was this sort of tone shift that did cut a lot of the tension.
Because we started going through a lot of time, and we just kind of it goes from moment to moment to a summary.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, really, really great story, especially for being written within 30 minutes. So I think this could definitely be something.
Yeah, one thing I kind of like about it is that, and I think in a rewrite you could even play with this even more, is that the solution that Brooke comes to, which is to write no one at her where her name is supposed to be. I'm not sure if that's the right answer. I don't know if that's like I was kind of concerned that actually that means that she disappears from existence.
Yeah.
These people are disappearing from the classroom, but that doesn't mean that they left, like that they just left and then were able to be normal, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you are drawing more parallels to the root or to Circle, when people disappeared, they definitely didn't go to a better place.
Yeah. So I wonder if a moral of the story it could be is don't look at other people for answers, because then you'll come to the wrong one. Like if all these people are disappearing and like deleting themselves essentially, maybe that's a bad thing to do. Don't look at other people for your answers. Pay attention to your own work. I don't know, just one potential thing. I know, having a straight up said moral like that might be a little on the nose, but I think that's part of the fun sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you very much, Calinero985. And next up is Jarby Jazz with the Mystery of the Abandoned Academy, Scooby-Doo Fanfic, Part 1.
And then Part 2 is in the comment. Yeah. So, as it says in the title, this is a Scooby-Doo fanfic, and we know that
finally.
Very quick.
I love it.
I think it's like our second or third one, right?
What do you mean?
We've had at least one Scooby-Doo fanfic before.
Yes, we have. It was a couple of weeks back. yeah, I think this is our second Scooby-Doo fanfic, which I'm very excited for. I think one week we should just do all Scooby-Doo fanfic, but
yeah, I think that's a good idea. I have no idea. On a anniversary of Scooby-Doo, probably is a good time to do that. So the mystery gang pulls up at an old academy, and it's all abandoned, so it's at the haunted house. And Fred is very excited to get in there, but as we go through pretty quickly, we kind of understand that Freddy is not okay.
Yeah, people are scared of him.
Yeah, it seems like everyone in the Mystery Gang is pretty afraid. The only person that seems like nonchalant is like Daphne, but she kind of disappears as soon as the narrative is able to send her off. Mm-hmm. And Darby just kind of knows that they did that on purpose because Daphne never does anything in the show.
Yeah, she does.
Which is usually true, not always, but it's
not
usually
always,
true.
But she normally is delegated to the damsel in distress role.
Yeah. So Freddy is basically gone mad and is sort of like holding the entire Mystery Gang captive as he goes on these mystery hunts. He makes the gang split up in the dark, and it seems like they're all uncomfortable with that, but they have to because he's making them do that. Shaggy is with Scooby, who is a talking dog. Like he talks how Scooby talks, which was
with the Rutros and everything.
Yeah, I found that choice very interesting because it seems like, I mean, normally when someone does this is actually the person's crazy, right? That means that this is going to be in a realistic universe, right, where like there's no talking dogs, but this is like still in the world where Scooby is Scooby, right? Scooby talks like Scooby talks. He's still Scooby, but the Mystery Gang's not a real thing, and Freddy's deranged. So it's interesting. I almost wanted to guess that Scooby was actually a person that they treat like a dog or something, but I don't think that's the case either.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's fun that Derby Jess is like emulating the voices of these characters. I think Shaggy's pretty damn close to how he actually talks. It's a lot of fun.
Pretty spot on.
And so they go off and investigate, and then they come back and meet up with Velma, who they've spotted that Fred has set a bear trap, right? Which is like, god damn, that's not how he usually rolls. When this person in a hood comes by, steps in the bear trap, starts screaming, and the gang gathers around, and they're like, they just look on kind of in like resignated horror as Freddy takes off the mask of the person, which means he rips off their face. Which is pretty horrible, and we kind of understand.
Pretty bloody.
We're left with the implication that this is in a sort of post-apocalypse situation, and that they are continuously at the mercy of Freddy.
Yeah, so I thought this was a really nice twist on the Scooby-Doo mythos. I think that the reveal at the end of basically the old world being a collapse was pretty shocking. I do feel that it definitely came out of nowhere, but at the same time, it provided a lot more context for the rest of the story. And I think the thing that really kind of took the center stage here was a lot of the dialogue and how spot on it is close to being with the dialogue that you would see in the TV show, while also adding its own twist to it. So yeah, overall, I think this is a really great fan fiction that takes a lot of things within Scooby-Doo and kind of flips them on their head. Because I would never think of a story where Freddy is this deranged villain, but after reading this, I can see how it would definitely work and make sense. So really great job.
I just thought this was very fun, and I think it was probably like a good time to practice a bunch of different skills in here, building horror and emulating voices and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right, up next is by Nipotin with Anti-Novel.
So
I love this one.
Yeah, this is a very interesting story. Nipiton, I think, really had fun with this one. So in the past couple of episodes, Nipiton wrote stories that were like all dialogue, and so this time they wanted to swing around and do the opposite thing, and they ended up doing something very experimental.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it opens is that Nipiton, the author, like the actual person Nipiton, is writing about the process of writing this story that they're writing right now, essentially, which is not in a fictional sense, but literally going
beat by beat.
Like, I was going to write a short story like this, but now I'm going to write a short story like this. This story is called this. And then basically like starts telling the story of telling the story, essentially, where we are a full step removed from a narrative. And so in this story, there's this mother who she gets a call, and then she sits across from her son and starts talking to like reconnect with him, and then starts telling a story called The Magic Circus, which this story about this mother is also called The Magic Circus. And she starts telling the story about the Magic Circus to her son Gale, who then starts participating and telling a story back to her because it's a story that she told to him when he was little. After right before they get to the end of the story, the phone rings and she goes and answers it. Her ex-husband checks in on her, telling her that her son's been killed in an accident. And he asks, did you have any idea why he'd be in town? Do you think he came to see me or you? And she says that she doesn't know. And so very quickly, so then this is very hard to summarize because the way that Nipiton's playing with narration is very complicated. So from that statement, we then go back into a very we start stepping back away from this story with the call doesn't last much longer. She returns to the kitchen table, and then now speaking directly to us, Nipiton says, by this point we would realize, as if in the case that they wrote the story, what the first phone call was about. The son is still there. And then we're back in the story. The son is still there. He asks her what's wrong. She says it's nothing, and they continue telling each other the story of the Magic Circus, and the story ends. And then we take a full step back. Now that the Magic Circus story is over, Nipiton starts talking about as I understand it, a literary theorist talking about what a story is made of, what the novel is made of, and then basically explains what the story about the Magic Circus is about. The son was dead, and this is like a story of the mother reconnecting with her son who's dead via the story. Summarizing and explaining the meaning of the innermost story of the Magic Circus that the mom is telling to the son, and then explaining the meaning of that narrative of the mother and the son, and then explaining what this narrative of explaining itself is about, which is really fascinating. And there's a very interesting point that they're making. There's some irony that in their attempt to get away from telling a story,
they told the story
through dialogue between characters. Nipiton, the author, as the character, told the story entirely with their own voice. There's this concept of like words get in the way of words basically create distance between us and like the events being told about, and a lot of good writing is trying to reduce that distance, but you can never actually arrive fully at meaning with no words in between that obscure what is actually supposed to be happening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I think the way that this story is told from a distance really works for this story about writing a story frame that they are writing in. I really like how experimental it really is, and also how in detail they really do go about just the creation of this story. And I don't know, I found it very refreshing to not only get a story, but also get this sort of overarching explanation of it. that is also very well written and brings forth a lot of great tidbits of what a story and what a novel is seen to be and what it should be. So yeah, I think this is just a really great story, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, so I've read some like literary theories that are similar to this for Decomposing Worm, but I think this story really helped me understand that concept of words getting in the way. It really, I think this is a great story to understand that concept. And I mean, I love experimental fiction. I think it's really fun to write that sort of thing. So, I really appreciate this. Thank you for writing this snippet, and I really enjoyed it. And I recommend that people go read this because you'll learn a little bit about the curse of language.
Yeah, the double-edged sword. Well, all right. Up next is by M. Reese with Black.
So this is a new writer. Thank you for joining us, M. Reese. We appreciate your entry. So in this story, we have Professor Gorner Trask entering a classroom with a... The classroom is basically empty except for Gorner Trask. And we immediately set up this idea of black thoughts being bad while white thoughts are good. And basically everything is... divided into this dichotomy, and there's no nuance.
Black and white.
Black thoughts and black ideas and things are like always bad. So in this room, there's a student, but it's not like actually a student. It seems that they're an inmate at this sort of correctional facility, and we get things revealed as we go. We kind of understand that David, the student, might be like a pedophile or something, which is really concerning, and we're like not sure what they did, but it seems like they're trying hard to get better, or it's complicated because it seems like the way that they are trying to rehabilitate this person is like very uncomfortable, and not just in like the sense of like David is being made to like confront his own actions or something, but like it's almost I don't know, like I felt like it was probably like really skeevy and like probably not acceptable of like a way to do this. Anyway, we don't know exactly the process is supposed to be, but we know that David is not succeeding at it, and that that's not good for him. And his daughter is dead after having chased a cat into the street, and he basically like makes a reference to her, and he's not supposed to do that because that's a black thought because she's dead, right? And anything that's negative should never be thought about. Pretty easily summarized at the end with the recitation that David has to make, which is white is right, which is white is light, no room for negativity, no room for regret, suppress the bad, elevate the good. And basically we understand that David is, if he doesn't improve within 10 more sessions, he's going to get like lobotomized or something to remove those black thoughts.
Yeah. So this story really gave me a lot of Minority Report vibes. Just the idea of basically a thought crime about someone being prosecuted by what they think and not through their actions, even though we do get a sense that this character of David did act upon certain things. But overall, I think the world building in this really takes a center stage. M. Reese does a really great job at describing this dichotomy of this society very well. And basically what would constitute a black thought versus a white thought. And I really do like how the story itself kind of started off pretty wide with a general view of a lot of these ideas, and then it starts to focus even more so on this more personal story a David David being forced to seek this sort of therapy.
Yeah, actually, going back, I just checked over stuff. I don't actually know if there's anything in the text that specifically says that David's a pedophile. Actually, the thing that made me think that was the professor lists basically why David is here, right? And since he's an inmate, my assumption was that he's done a crime, right? But we don't actually know that. It could just be that it's the thought crime of, quote, suffering from depression, suicidal thoughts, insomnia, and public anxiety, particularly around female children between the ages of 6 and 9. So that last bit made me think that, he gets really anxious because, he's a pedophile and, is ashamed of that part of himself, right?
But it also could be because
his daughter died when she was around that age. Mm-hmm. So I hope Emrys isn't too mad at us for getting that wrong. I think we did get that wrong. Mm-hmm. And I'm not entirely sure how you would fix that, or if it's reasonable to. I don't know if most people would read it the same way that I did.
Yeah, I mean, in your reading, it does seem very valid. Because that is something that also crossed my mind in reading it, is that I thought he was simply in there for thought crime, because since he's having these black thoughts that he's being stuck there. But I think on a different reading, and maybe if there was a bit more context, I can definitely see how someone could arise at that conclusion.
If... I don't even know if it actually needs to be fixed, because sometimes you can just blame the reader.
Yeah.
But if there was a line of subject is here because and then say that they were admitted because of depression and these things, not this, and basically implicitly say that it's not because of an actual crime.
Yeah. But I guess small things that could possibly be fixed. I mean, for that, it could, as you said, be up to the reader's interpretation. But there could be a bit more clarity there. But yeah, overall, I think this story creates this world very well, and it also kind of arises a lot of different questions within the reader themselves about this dichotomy, which is also present in our day-to-day world. So yeah, I think this is a really great story that I would love to see another edit or more being added onto it.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Emrys, and I hope that the mistake was not too distressing.
Yes. Well, all right. Thank you so much to everyone who did write this week. If it were not for y'all, then we wouldn't really have a podcast. So we just want to take a quick little moment to thank everyone who did write in this week. So thank you very much to Paradox,
Ace of Sword,
Kamikaze Tomato,
Hunt of the Heron,
Calanero 985,
Jarby Jazz,
Yeti Mancer Quest,
Nippoten,
Sith Thrill,
Emrys,
It's All Uphill,
Ghost Pac-Man 4,
and Ritum. Thank you so much for submitting your story. And also, we would like to give a big old do the right thing thank you to those who left comments. Leaving a comment not only allows you to figure out what worked and didn't work within your own story, but you're also providing someone else with crucial feedback, which can aid them in making their own story or any other story that they might write that much better. So, thank you very much to Ghost Pac-Man 4, Yeti Mancer Quest, Sith Thrill, Jarby Jazz, Paradox, Kamikaze Tomato, and Haunt of the Heron. Thank you so much for leaving comments.
Y'all are awesome, and I really liked seeing so much discussion on all of these stories. And it was also really cool just to get so many stories this week after a drought. So really cool that people are taking that back up again in the midst of quarantine and all. it's really tough to do things right now, just generally. So I really applaud everyone who has written a story in the last little while.
Definitely. If you want to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit your story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to our subreddit, which is /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is go to the most recent week, use 3 of 4 words for that week in a story that you write within 30 minutes.
Yep. That was not clunky at all. Well, I mean, that's just our premise is hard to say. That's just how it is.
I mean, there's just a lot of odds and ends and little bits of detail you have to shove in there.
Yeah. If you want to hear the words as soon as possible, you could follow our Twitter account, which is @RightThingCast.
If you want to support us and all of Doof Media and help us continue to make the content that we hope you like, you can do that by donating $1 or a month to our Doof Media Patreon. By doing that, you will not only gain access to the Doof Media Discord, but you will help us continue to make the content that you like. And also, if you donate upwards of $10, you will get access to a bonus episode that me and Matthias made talking about Modico Magica.
That's right. I have not posted that yet. I really need to do that, but I'm in the final stages of editing it.
Okay.
I've done all the processing. I just gotta run through it, and I have I gotta play with the music a bit because I don't have a dedicated music thing.
Are you still trying to put in that like a Sword Art Online snippet? Or
no, I already got that. No, okay. I got that. That's already. Oh, I guess I pretty much did finish editing it except for the music, huh? I should do that. I'm not going to get it done over this weekend, though. So, but it might come out sometime early next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday. I think is the goal. Sorry about that, y'all. Also, just the other thing I want to mention is that the Decomposing Worm / Pale Reflections fan art contest ended a couple days before this episode comes out. So we're no longer accepting submissions for that contest. However, that means that voting is now open. So the place to go to that is patreon.com. Any level of patron is able to vote there. Choose it's one of the it's a vote where you can choose more than one thing to get your vote. And there's some prizes to get there. I know the work is really incredible. And I'm excited to see who wins.
Definitely. Well, all right. That is it for the Do the Right Thing outro. So let's go ahead and announce next week's words, which are, gotta get a drum roll or a bass line or something.
Bum bum. That's what you get.
Oh well, hey, that's more than I normally get.
That is a lot more than you normally get. You better appreciate it.
I am. So the words for next week are temptation, hover, bear, and fault. Ooh, I really like these words.
This is a fun set. So temptation, as in something that makes you want to do a thing which normally you're not supposed to do, like eat a cake when you're on a diet, that kind of thing, or
sexual temptation.
Yeah. That's the obvious one.
The most
hover.
Obvious.
As in, for something to float above another object, although I think the term hovering kind of implies that it is a continuous action. Like
a hover car.
Right. Or you're I don't know, just hovering over someone, not in a literal sense, but like you're hovering over their shoulder, right? That kind of thing. A bear, as in the animal, which is, it's a bear. But also bear with me.
Too much to bear.
Too much to bear, exactly. And then fault, as in it is your fault, or as in a fault in the earth, which is a crack running through it. A fault line is what I was going to say. Like the character, yeah.
So, Matthias, next week, what story are you going to bring to us?
That's a great question. Is it Jarvis? I didn't even have a second to think about it. But that's my own fault for not coming prepared to write a really great story about a bear that after many moons of meditation in a cave on the top of the highest mountain. This is a grizzly bear that hiked all the way across the Bering Strait while it was still icy. Then it went to what we now call Nepal, but at the time was just mountains. And climb up to the top of Mount Everest, where there is a secret cave that no one actually knows about, because it actually fell off between now and then. This is a long time ago. And so the bear went into this cave at the top of Mount Everest. This is an American bear. Again, I want to emphasize. And then meditated in lotus sitting position for 30 moons and 30 suns. And it learned that the secret to... a secret skill that no one knows about is to resist all temptation, to learn mastery over your own self, including the temptation to fall to the ground. And that is how you learn the skill of how to hover a couple inches off the ground while seated in lotus position. It's a pretty useful skill. Sometimes you don't want to get your butt dirty. So you just want to, make sure that you're not, sainting your holy butt. That's really bad. That's dumb. I feel really dumb saying that.
Your holy butt.
And then this bear went back to America. At that time, the Bering Strait had melted, but it was okay because they just, got down in lotus position. They sat down. They were hovering a couple of inches above the water, and they kind of like paddled themselves forward. It just kind of pushing back, and they were able to cross the Bering Strait and then get back. And that is why all bears in America can hover.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that. So thank you for that little tidbit.
Mm-hmm. What's the story you're going to write?
My story is going to be Brother Bear fan fiction. Basically, instead of him turning into a bear when he does go up to the mountain top, he actually ends up turning into a fire spirit, one that hovers and is engulfed in an infinite flame. And basically from there, the story is about him finding closeness with his brother and nature itself, while always having this temptation to burn everything that it does touch. And eventually at the very end, after he reconnects with his people and his brothers, he tells them that it is time to move, because through his fire powers he noticed that they are living on top of a major fault line. So quickly, Brother Bear turns into them having to spend 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, trying their best to find a new home.
That sounds incredible.
Yes, it's the perfect story, and I think by writing that, it will get people to rewatch Brother Bear, because it is such a fantastic film.
You were gonna say Do the Right Thing, because that's the name of our show, and that's how we close episodes.
Oh, with Do the Right Thing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, watching Brother Bear is doing the right thing.
That's very true. That's a good movie. All right, cool. I'm gonna hit stop.